Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder when I step off the train and deliver an episode to you while I walk home. This is Brendan Riley. Greetings, listeners and fellow board game enthusiasts. I hope that your day is going well. So I noticed something about the sound yesterday. I have occasionally, when it's been windy, held my hands sort of around the microphone to protect it from wind. But yesterday, in the last episode, there was a kind of a hollow sound that I did not enjoy, that I distinctly heard come into play when I put my hand around the microphone that way. So I'm going today to let the casual breeze of my walk home caress the microphone directly, and we'll see how bad it sounds. I may end up scrapping this whole episode. Hopefully that's not something I have to do, because I'm excited to talk to you about today's topic. I know you're eager to find out the weather. You can hear the birds chirping, I'm sure. It is a lovely sunny day here in suburban Chicago. I'm walking home from work about 3 p.m. and all is right with the world. So, today I wanted to talk about gamifying your life. So, like many men in my 40s, which I'm 40, so I'm a man in my 40s, I have a bit of extra weight around my middle. And so I have been thinking toward my health and the second half of my life here, and decided that it's time for me to make some effort toward fixing my appearance or fixing my health, getting a healthier attitude toward what I eat, making an effort to slim down toward a body weight that has less body fat percentage, generally trying to keep myself active and looking sharp. So to that end, I have joined Weight Watchers. For those of you not in America, Weight Watchers is a subscription program where you go to meetings every week and you get weighed on a scale by a person who works there, so you have a sort of formal check-in obligation and they track how you've been doing. And the idea of the meetings is that you get support in the plan from the other people. Now, in the process itself, the idea of Weight Watchers is to change your habits so that you change how you eat in a way that is more healthy. And the way the system is set up, you set a goal weight when you sign up, and once you make your goal weight, then the program is free. As long as you come once a month and you check in, you get to keep doing Weight Watchers for free as long as you're within a certain distance of your goal weight. So that's a nice incentive to kind of keep with the program and stay connected. So I bring this up today, not because I want to talk about weight loss or even food really, but because I want to talk about games. So a central part of the Weight Watchers experience for me anyway is downloading the Weight Watchers app, which is something you get access to when you are signed up for the system, and it's something that goes on your phone. And it's set up to help make easier the Weight Watchers system, which is all about points. This is the thing that felt like a game to me, and I wanted to articulate a little bit. So the way Weight Watchers works, they look at your height and weight, and they give you a target number of points you can spend each day on food. And when you eat, you have to record what you eat and how much you eat, and those things take away points from your daily allotment. Now, different foods carry different kinds of points, and the idea of the points is to help you develop habits of eating that fit the healthy lifestyle you're aiming for. So one of the big parts of it is that there are a significant set of foods that are 0-point foods, meaning that when you eat them, you don't incur any points. Most fruits and vegetables fit this category. There's a bunch of other stuff too. So you can be pretty careful in how you eat and keep your point count really low, and then you can eat there's a few things that will cost points, and you should eat close to your allotted food amount every day. And then you get a few points that you get to use each week that in case you go over and you want to splurge or something, those points are there for that. As you keep track of this on your app, you have a big point counter in the middle that goes up and down. So when you add things, you can see it kind of ratchet down. And when you succeed for the day, you get a blue dot on your day if you didn't go more than 5 points over your daily allotment. And, it keeps track of for the week of how you're doing and so on. So this reminded me, especially the part where you put the food in and you see your point count tick down. It reminded me of the experience of doing my taxes. So I use the software TurboTax to do my taxes, and that has a similar game feeling to it in that as you enter in your financial information, there's a counter up in the top that says how much money you owe. And if you start at the beginning of the process, you enter in your W-2s first, and I don't know what your situation is like, but mine, it starts by saying I owe a bunch of money. And then as I add in the other things that figure into my life, my children, my house, my business expenses, etc., then that number changes and you get to watch that number go up and down as you add different things to your experience. So you get a kind of game feeling like you're playing a video game. And the Weight Watchers thing is really interesting because as a gamer, the experience of trying to plan my meals for the day, of picking what I'm going to eat, feels like a Euro game. I'm trying to maximize the efficiency of my point usage so that I can stay within this target window. I have these weekly points, so if I really want to be able to have a treat of some sort, I need to think carefully about how I'm eating at other times so that I don't waste all my points and then not be able to have that treat that I want. And, the effect is what it's supposed to be, right? That it's starting to help me reprogram my thinking about what I should be eating so that I'm eating more healthy and then hopefully I slim down a bit. We'll see about that. That only time will tell. It's a slow process, but the idea is it's slow and steady and helps you change your habits rather than a sort of crash diet and then you go back to your old habits as soon as you're done. All of this ties into something that has been part of a current in academic conversation about games for a while now. And we've seen it as the app culture has risen up around us. As we all carry these phones in our pockets, we have the potential for making games out of things that weren't games. And the verb for this is gamify. Probably one of the leading thinkers in this area, at least from the academic perspective, is a woman named Jane McGonigal. She's got an interesting book called Reality is Broken, where she talks about gamification as a way to help people approach difficult things. That if you break a difficult task into small, discrete tasks and then you earn points or give yourself rewards for that, then you get, your reward is points really. Then you help make that task easier and you help motivate yourself to do it. This is something that we've started doing pretty widely as a culture. If you spend much time on social media, one of the things you learn to do is keep track of your likes and your friends and your reposts and all of those things that make your social media experience important or successful. These are all gamified elements, things that you want to do because you get more of them, and they serve as an end in themselves. Now, we aren't there yet, but one of the things that some people have suggested is that as we hopefully move away from a scarcity economy, if we solve the problems of hunger and poverty, then the question is what becomes the motivator. And Cory Doctorow has an interesting book called Down and Out in Magic Kingdom, which he says there's a kind of social currency, he calls it wuffy in that book, that becomes the thing that people use to judge status. And this gamifying process sort of could be that way. I mean, like, for example, in the Weight Watchers meeting I was at, remember I said if you succeed in staying within your daily point count on a given day, then the machine, the app, gives you a blue dot on that day on the calendar. And so one of the things people strive for is, a certain number of blue dots in a week. The idea of getting a particular number of blue dots in a week becomes a thing that people push toward, a thing that they are trying to achieve so that they can feel better about themselves, but also it becomes a kind of status thing. And this is how we encourage one another. We applaud people who, got 5 blue dots in a week. Oh, so as somebody who finds this kind of social engineered habit of congratulating one another a little bit hokey, I was a little skeptical, but, sort of listening to people and sort of engaging with the struggle they have to break bad habits or to develop good habits, I found it strangely comforting. And so I wanted to talk today about the idea of gamifying our life and what it means to put these kinds of systems in place. I do want to caveat, do want to draw a line here and recommend a really good book called Punished by Rewards, which talks about the idea of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Alfie Cohen is the writer who talks about the psychological effect of motivation provided by external rewards on your personal growth. That if you are constantly, he talks about for children, if they get a reward for cleaning their room, as soon as you take that reward away, they stop cleaning their room. And I have to say, there's a little concern for me in gamifying my life, gamifying things I do, in that I'm conditioning myself to want that reward. But when I'm the one giving it to myself, when I'm the one shaping my own rewards, it feels like I'm building my own intrinsic motivation, perhaps. So I'm not as worried about that. As I think about the effect of this on game design, trying to understand game design, there are certainly some psychological connections to be made between the effect of gamifying and the way that we design a game to be enjoyable, to trigger people's pleasure. One of these is just the idea of rewards being how we motivate players to do particular things. For example, the game Century, which comes in both the Spice Road and Gollum versions, is a game all about rewarding players for doing the right thing, right? You get rewarded for doing an exchange in your cards because you have more cubes or more crystals. You get a reward for buying a card, you get points after you did a good job generating crystals, right? The game just continually rewards you for doing the things you do. Games that are often called point salad, a Stefan Feld game like Aquasphere, which has a whole bunch of different things you can do and all of them earn points. This is very much a game where it uses points as its way to motivate behaviors among its players. And this is, I think, the central point of games that run on points. Games that run on points have specific actions they want you to do, and they're trying to measure your ability to be good at those actions or to organize those actions. And just in a very straight way, game designers are using points to specifically motivate and reward specific kinds of behaviors. Now, narrative becomes the other way that we provide incentive for players to do what we want. If you look at like the legacy type games, or you look at some of Ryan Laukatt's games that have stories built in with gameplay, the stories become a way, again, to focus and incentivize player behavior. Now, in Above and Below, for example, where you go exploring in the caves and you get stories out of that, there's an interesting example of counter incentives there, in that generally the things you want to do when you're playing Above and Below are tied to the incentives of the story, but they don't necessarily succeed because of it, and you don't necessarily win the game because you did those things. So that's an interesting counterpoint that I think comes into play sometimes with regard to that particular sort of narrative. Well, I've now reached my home, so that means it's the end of part 1. In the next episode, I'm planning to talk about the other side of this question, which is how to lifeify your games. So please do tune in later, and we will talk about that. In the meantime, if you haven't reached out to me, I would love to hear your thoughts on this idea of gamifying your games. Please reach out on Twitter, Rattlebox Games, or email brendan@rattleboxgames.com. Or I think the best place to reach out is on our Board Game Geek Guild number 3269, which you can find a link to in the show notes, or if you search Board Game Geek Pick Up and Deliver Guild, you'll find it. Well, thanks for joining me on my walk. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye. Okay, getting out my script. That's some good Foley work there. Okay, here we go.
Yeah. Oh, I like that one. You see the White House right there? Right there?
Well, we just saw some older middle schoolers or younger high schoolers shouting swear words and admiring architecture. That seems like a good end episode button there. So what was I talking about?
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.